Hi everybody! Don't know why I went with that. Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and of course with it being roughly the beginning of the month, I'm a bit late with this one. With it being roughly the beginning of the month, we're looking at Patreon requests, and this one comes from Mistress Vicious. And today she's asked me to look at Poppy. No idea who that is, what that is, or anything about it. So, obviously, not knowing anything about it, I had to look them up. And it leads for some quite interesting reading. I had a quick scan over it before I actually started recording, and let's just say it's interesting. So, Poppy, otherwise known as Moira Rose Pereira, pronounce that horribly, I'm sure. Born January 1st, 1995, better known as Poppy and formerly as That Poppy, is an American singer, songwriter, and YouTuber. She first earned recognition for surreal performance art videos on YouTube, in which she played an uncanny valley-like android. That's a mouthful to say that. Commenting on and satirizing internet culture and modern society. She has become more widely known for being highly experimental and versatile with her artistry and music. Poppy's debut EP, Bubble Bath, 2016, featured ska and pop influences. Her debut studio album, Poppy Computer, 2017, was largely an art pop release and saw her embark on her debut concert tour, the Poppy Computer Tour, until 2018. She experimented with electropop and heavier genres such as nu metal on her second album, Am I a Girl? While her second EP, Choke, and third album, I Disagree, continued in a heavier direction and incorporated heavy metal and industrial rock. The single Blood Money from I Disagree received a nomination for the Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance, making Poppy the first solo female artist to be nominated in that category. As part of a long-time collaboration with professional wrestling promotion WWE and its NXT brand, Poppy released the metalcore EP Eat on the NXT soundtrack in 2021. Her following two albums, Flux and Zig, as well as her fifth EP, Stagger, featured alternative rock dark pop sounds. Her sixth album, Negative Spaces, returned to heavy metal. That same year, she received a second Grammy nomination for Best Metal Performance for featuring on Knocked Loose song Suffocate. So she is all over the place. So she started off with like surrealist performance art, like pretending to be like an android and commenting on internet culture and stuff like that. Then she started with their music, which had sort of ska pop, and then she went into art pop, then she went into nu metal and electro pop, and then she'd gone into heavy metal, and then she'd gone into industrial rock, and she sort of floated about in all sorts of genres. I mean, when you look at her Wikipedia page, it says genres: pop, heavy metal, rock, electronic, industrial, and experimental. So, you know, she sounds like somewhat of an interesting individual. Now, I have been asked specifically to look at a track called They Are All Around Us, or They're All Around Us. I have no idea what to expect going into this. You know, like I said, I've never even heard of Poppy until I got suggested this track. And, yeah, so, no idea. Could this be a pop one? Could it be a ska one? I don't know. Could it be a heavy metal one? Could it be an industrial one? Fucked if I know. So, I'm very intrigued. So, we'll jump into this video, but before we do that, if you could just take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already, it would really mean the world to me. You know, I've been doing this for close to 7 years now, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is a little disheartening, because, you know, I've put a lot of time and effort into doing this. But yeah, if you could like and subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything, it takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and the channel. Anyway, with that being said, let's jump into this and see what we've got. So this is They're All Around Us by Poppy. Let's have a look.
Fire desert you. Will you curse what's coming true? And the hate will catch you and leave you in the shadows. They're all around us. They're all around us.
Well, not what I expected, that's for sure. I mean, given what we just read about who she is, you know, and especially in the fact that she started off with things like pop and electro pop and stuff like that, that was very unexpected. I mean, she came right in with some very, very heavy, very chunky guitar riffs and some incredibly well performed harsh vocals. That's, I mean, it was good. I liked it. It was interesting. So, yeah, that was, interesting. As I said, the actual vocal performance was very, very good because, you know, for the most part, some very harsh, very shouted, screamed, very angry sounding vocals. But then she came into that chorus with a clean and almost soft, or it's not almost soft, it was definitely softer, a cleaner, softer vocal, which sort of hints towards more her pop styling, I imagine. So, you know, she has got a good voice to actually sing, and she's got a very good voice for doing her harsh vocals as well, because they were performed incredibly well. And switching between two is actually quite difficult. I mean, you look at a lot of like deathcore or hardcore, whatever bands you want, and, you know, they've got the harsh vocals and the clean vocals, and more often than not, not always, but more often than not, it's two separate people. One person does the harsh vocals, one person does the clean vocals. Not always the case, but in a majority of cases, that is true. But you do get certain individuals who are very, very good at that. Look at Mikael Åkerfeldt of Opeth, for example. You know, he is astonishingly brilliant at going from his harsh vocals into his clean vocals. You know, there are several people out there who can do that. It's just, like I said, more often than not in things like the deathcore bands, you've more often than not got two singers. So, you know, she is obviously a very, very talented vocal performer. And obviously a very, very talented lyricist as well, because it took me a while going through this song to try and figure out what it is. And to me, it just sounds like being surrounded by people you cannot trust. I mean, the title of the track, "They're All Around Us," it sounds like, you know, I am surrounded by people I cannot trust, or I'm surrounded by dodgy, shifty, weird people that, you know, it's them, you know, the royal them. You know, it's like they say this, they say that. Who is they? And this is like that metaphorical they, you know. So the song opens with "Coward, they're all around us. Stab me in the back and you don't think twice. Refute amity. And now I'm vilified. Horror raining down on the demonstration, down with your performative action. Rain down, you know you can't trust no one." I hate it when people use double negatives. Anyway, have you seen yourself? I'm not a sucker, I see right through you. So right from the get-go, it's almost like a verbal attack. You know, stab you in the back and you don't think twice. So it's like, that these people in the world that will basically use you and take advantage of you and betray you any chance they've got, and they won't lose an hour's sleep because of it. They're more than happy to do whatever it takes to get whatever they want, even if it means sacrificing a friendship, even if it means throwing you under the bus. Stab me in the back, betray me, and you don't even think twice. It's just become so second nature to you. It doesn't affect you anymore. It's not even a choice for you. It's a way of life. Horror raining down on the demonstration, down with your performative action. So again, there's that sort of two-facedness that's being suggested here, sort of like you do these horrible things to people, but then you sort of try and pretend and play the sweet innocent victim, saying, "Oh, I didn't know it was going to happen that way. I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know somebody would have to go at you because of something I did, and I didn't know it was going to hurt you that much, I'm really, really sorry. I didn't mean to do it," and then they go and do it again. That down with your performative action. I can see right through this shit. There's even that line, rain down, rain down. You can't trust. No, I hate that line. You can't trust anyone. If you can't trust no one, it's a double negative. Meaning you can trust someone. So, anyway. Have you seen yourself? I'm not a sucker. I see right through you. So it's like, I know who you are. I know what you're up to. I know what you do. I know exactly the kind of person you are. And I can see exactly what you're trying to do here. I'm not going to let you do that to me again. Then she goes into the chorus, and the way the chorus is performed, I really like it, because there's this weird sort of vacuum of silence in the middle of it. She does the lines, "When your spirit's black and blue and your heroes all desert you, will you curse what's coming true?" And then there's this weird sort of, it's almost like a vacuum. All the sound just goes, and it goes silent for a second, and then comes back in again. And it's very unusual. I've heard it done before, but not with as much regularity as it's done here. But it's very, very clever, because it makes you pay attention. Because you're sort of listening to music and all of a sudden everything goes quiet. Even if it's just for a fraction of a second. And then you're like, what? Oh. It really sort of, it demands your attention. I've mentioned this before. Both of my parents used to be radio DJs. And they refer to those as a DJ's nightmare. Because, like, if you're a DJ in a radio booth and you're playing a piece of music and it all of a sudden goes quiet, there's that incident of panic that you haven't got anything lined up. It's like everything goes silent and you're like, shit, what? Oh. Because normally you would either crossfade into another song or you would crossfade your microphone in and start talking. And, if a song suddenly goes silent and you've got nothing lined up, you freak out. So, I like the use of it there because it grabs your attention. It demands your attention. It sort of makes you go, what? Oh, I like it. So when your spirit's black and blue and your heroes all desert you, will you curse what's coming true? And the hate won't count you out. It'll leave you in the shadows. They're all around us. So when your spirit's black and blue, so when you're like beaten down and stuff like that, and your heroes all desert you, there's no one there to help you. Will you curse what's coming true? Will you be angry at what's happening around you? Will you? I'm wondering if that's like when you're starting to get beaten and broken, and you feel like there's no hope left. Are you going to end up turning into these people that you hate? Are you actually going to end up falling into that trap? Possibly, that might be what it means. I don't know. The hate won't count you out. It'll leave you in the shadows. So again, that could be, like the idea of the hate overcoming you and turning you into a bitter, jaded and angry person, like all of these people that are around you, possibly. They're all around us, suggesting all these liars, these people that are pretty much out to make you as miserable as possible. They are everywhere. Never wait around, for the day won't come. Disintegrate to a frail remembrance, stolen off the back of the ones you loved. You take their hand, then you claim corruption. Rain down, rain down. You can't trust no one. Have you seen yourself, you motherfucker? I can see right through. So again, never wait for the day won't come. So disintegrate to a frail remembrance. So it's like, don't wait around for things to work out. Don't wait around for the world to become perfect, because it's just not gonna happen. Disintegrate to a frail remembrance. Any good or happy time that you're expecting or hoping to come, it's just not going to happen. It's just going to be a faded memory by the end of it. It's not happening, because everybody is out to hurt you. Everybody is out to stab you in the back. Stolen off the back from the ones you loved, you take their hand, then you claim corruption. This sounds like talking to these people. You've taken advantage of the people you cared about. You've taken advantage of friends. You've taken advantage of families. Stolen off the back of. You take their hand, then you claim corruption. So you've taken what you wanted from these people, and then you've turned around and accused that person of being horrible and never helping, sort of thing. I've seen so many people like that. It's like their mum and dad give them everything they could ever hope for, but they turn around and say to their friends or whoever else, oh, my parents are horrible people, they're bastards, they're motherfuckers, they don't do anything to help me, this, that, and the other. Whereas in fact, they've been given everything, so it's again these sorts of people. They are all around us. Those sort of horrible oxygen thieves that add nothing to society. They're just out for themselves and to make everybody around them as miserable as humanly possible. So again, rain down. You can't trust no one. Have you seen yourself? You motherfucker, I see right through you. Wave your false flag, traitors all around. I'm discontent until they stay down. So again, wave your false flag. So again, that's the facade, hiding behind a false personality or a false flag, trying to show me one thing when I know you're something else, hiding behind a fake persona. Traitors all around, pretty self-explanatory. I'm discontent until they stay down. I'm never going to be happy until all these people that are out to be a leech on society have all fucked off. I don't want these people around here anymore. I'm never going to be happy whilst all these fuckers are around. I want red. Then they'll be happy. Then it goes back into that chorus again. When your spirit's black and blue and your heroes all desert you, will you curse what's coming next? And the hate won't count you out. It'll leave you in the shadows. They're all around us. But underneath, under the weight of God, crawling on your knees, unbelieve. All of the promise in you, there's a fate you'll meet. From every inch of the mire, they claw to grasp for what was never theirs to take. Ignorance is a poison. They feed their kids and then they walk among us. So, but underneath the weight of God, I'm not sure about that. Crawling on your knees, unbelief. All the promise in you, there's a fate you'll meet. So, there is a level of promise in you. There is still hope in you somewhere, maybe, and sooner or later that hope will lead you to somewhere better eventually. But you've got to keep combating against all of these people that are trying to drag you down, all these people that are trying to make you miserable, trying to ruin your life, possibly. That I could be way off base with this, I don't know, because it's, as you saw with the video, it's a little bit abstract in the way it's being put together. From every inch of the mire, they claw and grasp for what was never theirs to take. So this is like the fetid pool of slime and filth that these leeches on society crawl from. Every inch of this mire is trying to take from you. They're trying to take what was never theirs. So they want to take everything from you, whether it be your happiness, your joy, your love, or even your hard-earned money or your happiness, whatever. They're trying to take whatever it is they can take. If it's not nailed down, they're going to take it, basically. And I love this line. Ignorance is a poison. Beautiful line. Because it is. People say ignorance is bliss. It's not. Seeing something and pretending it's not happening. you see all these people that are just so fucking stupid. They can't see the most obvious things in front of them, you know. People sit there and champion celebrities or politicians who are just horrible, horrible people. But they're just ignoring all of the horrible things they do and say because of some misguided hero worship. Like, you still see people championing and cheering and supporting Amber Heard. You know, that woman is a vile, vile human being. I mean, I have a whole level of hatred for that woman, because, and I mean, many of you will know I went through domestic abuse at the hands of a woman myself, and you know, there is a special place in hell for people like that who play the victim and go, oh, I'm just a sweet innocent little woman, I can't possibly have done anything wrong, he's the big tough burly man, he must be the one in the wrong, you know. And that's exactly what I went through. That's exactly what she did to Johnny Depp, you know. And but there's still people who support her, and it's like, why? You know, there are people who still support Ezra Miller. You know, they were grooming underage children. They kidnapped people. They held people hostage. You know, they did all sorts of unbelievable things. You know, they are literally a felon. And people still support them. There is a certain politician in a certain part of the world, whose name I will not mention, who is a felon, who belongs in prison, who has admitted to sexual assault, who has admitted that he was more in love with his own daughter than his wife when his daughter was only 13 years old. You know, but people are so blind to these factors, they just want to completely ignore that, pretend that hasn't happened, and just listen to the lies. You know, ignorance is a poison because it literally destroys the fabric of society. You know, because you are literally believing a lie. You are purposefully ignoring the truth of something. And it is having a knock-on effect through everybody else's life. You know, because if a whole bunch of people believe something that's not true, or they choose to ignore something, they're basically saying that what that person did is okay and acceptable. And it sort of skews the worldview and everything, you know. It's sort of like, well, there's people that think that this is acceptable and this is okay, so there are people who think they can get away with this shit. And you know, it is a poison on society. Ignorance is a poison. It's a great line. They feed their kids and then they walk among us. So they take what they need, they feed, you know, and that they essentially infect their children with their same thought patterns. They, you know, they procreate and, you know, implant their morals onto their next generation and the next generation, and you know, increase it. It's an ever increasing thing. You know, this poison spreads, it grows, it perpetuates itself. They walk among us. It's something that, you know, it's an unwinnable battle. Essentially, you're never gonna get everybody to agree. You're never gonna get everybody to be reasonable human beings. So yeah. And it goes back into that chorus, when your spirit's black and blue and your heroes all desert you, will you curse what's coming true? And the hate won't count you out. It'll leave you in the shadows. They're all around us. They're all around us. And that's it. So, you know, that she's basically talking about, or to me, it seems like she's talking about, you know, the toxicity of society and the way that the world is becoming at the moment, you know, because, you know, certain behaviours in the world seem to be making a huge comeback. You know, like racism, for example. I mean, it never fully went away, but there seems to be a massive increase in racism in recent years. You know, homophobia, transphobia, this sort of thing. You know, we're in the year 2025. We should be past this shit by now. But you will always get these small-minded motherfuckers who for some reason, even though it has no effect on their life whatsoever, they are going to find some way to make it all about them. Like these people claiming, transgender men, transgender women, whatever, they're coming into our bathrooms and they're staring at us and leering at. No, they're not. They don't give a flying fuck what you've got in your pants. They just want to live the way they live their life. It's perfectly within the law. You can live your life however the fuck you want to, as long as it's within the confines of the law. And, you've got certain people, again, no names mentioned, who are trying to make it illegal. It's 2025. Come on. Get your shit together, people. There is no need to be a leech on society. There is no need to be such a hate-filled asshat. It contributes nothing to society. We should all really be working together to make the world a better place to live in, rather than constantly being at odds with each other, rather than constantly butting heads and finding excuses to argue and fight. It serves no purpose. If we were all nicer to each other, we might be able to, all get along. We might start sharing things rather than having to go into someone else's country and steal it from them by killing everybody. Rather than starting wars and arguments and fights and shit like that, maybe if you were nice to them, they might share, rather than just going in there and taking it all, And that seems to be what she's talking about in this song, is the whole world is just becoming such a poisonous place to live. And, no matter what you do, no matter where you turn, there is someone trying to take your happiness from you. There is someone trying to take anything and everything they possibly can from you. The world is... It seems like the world, or society, not the world, because the planet itself has done nothing wrong. But the population of the planet is just trying to ruin your life. And they are all around us. They're everywhere. And, like that line said, they feed their kids and then walk among us. It's a self-perpetuating thing. One person speaks hate. They meet someone else who has a similar fucked up point of view. They start spewing hate. They meet more people and convince them of their hate. They then breed or procreate, and then they teach their offspring that same hate. And it's a self-perpetuating thing. And, we can fight against it as much as we want, but it's something that will probably never go away. Again, like I said, with racism, there was a massive dip in it, in late 90s, early 2000s. It was great. And then certain people came into power, and then the whole thing just went straight back up again with things like homophobia and transphobia. These things don't affect you in any way. Why are you so angry about it? No matter what you do, no matter how nice something is, you will always get someone who has to be negative and angry about it. Like you could post the cutest thing. You could post a picture of a puppy rolling around in flowers, and someone somewhere will find some reason, somehow, to be angry, offended, and pissed off about it. There will always be one person who is going to find something negative to say about it, just because they want to make people miserable. Why do you feel the need to do that? It's like, why do you feel the need to do these things? Why do you need to take something that has nothing to do with you and then make it all about you? It's like meat eaters who get really angry and defensive when they see something vegan. If you don't like it, don't eat it. No one's forcing you to. But it's nice for people like me to have that option. If you don't want to eat it, that's fine. But why are you so angry at it? Fuck's sake, Anyway, I could rant on for ages about the topic of this song, but, it's making a very clear statement, in my mind at least, that essentially the world at large, or the population of the world at large, is just toxic and all set out to make you miserable. And you know, the performance was really, really good. Like I said, the vocal performance was impressive. You know, it goes to show the amazing range that this woman has. You know, she can do those beautiful, clean vocals and then go into that harsh, screamed vocal as well. You know, so she's got quite a good vocal range. I'd be intrigued to see something else by her in a different style, you know, like maybe the ska pop, the electro pop, or industrial or whatever. I'd be curious to investigate something else of hers to get more of an idea of her overall. I don't want to say her overall sound, because apparently she doesn't have an overall sound. She's all over the place, and that intrigues me. So I would be interested to examine this artist again. So yeah, I mean, the video was interesting as well. I mean, it was weird, it was very abstract, and you know, given that her start with YouTube was doing weird abstract art sort of videos as a Uncanny Valley android, you know, it kind of makes sense that her videos would be that way. So, you know, interesting, very interesting. But yeah, very interesting. I'm not sure what else I can say on that, so I'm going to leave that as it is. And now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or a subscribe if you haven't already. It would really, really mean the world to me. You know, I've been doing this for about 7 years at this point, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is a little bit disappointing, because, you know, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I put a lot of time and effort into doing what I do. And, you know, every now and then I do get distracted, but, you know, I'm looking after disabled people. So, you know, every now and then, you know, it might take me a while, but, you know, I try and put a lot of effort into what I do, and I like to think I do something different. You know, most other reactors will look at a piece of music and go, yes, I like it, no, I didn't, and that's about all you get. I like to actually react to the song. I like to investigate what the song is about, talk about the themes, the meanings, the morals behind the song. You know, talk about the lyrics. What do they mean to me? What do they mean to you? I want to have that conversation, and that's why I do it the way that I do. You know, I like to talk through the lyrics, try and discern the meaning, the stories within it. You know, does this song mean something different to you than it does to me? I want to have a dialogue. I want to have a conversation, you know, because it interests me. And that's why I do what I do. So, you know, if you could like and subscribe, you know, it would really mean the world to me. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and the channel. But, yeah, that's about all I've got for you for this one. So, yeah, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye-bye.
When your spirit's black and blue, and your heroes all